Hey guys, how's it going? I wanted to record earlier. There was a whole thing I wanted to cover, and I'm just like, if I don't get like to do it in that moment, it kind of escapes me, and then I lose like the fire behind it. But I did really want to record something, and I just stumbled across a video that I didn't even finish it. I watched like, I don't know, not quite halfway through, and I really enjoyed what he was talking about. So I wanted to make a video on something today. I wanted to do something. So here we are. So I'm going to pull it up here and share because I just really love everything he's saying. And I really feel like what he's talking about is a direction that I hope that we're moving in. I think that we're moving in as like a country, as a world, whatever. So let me see here. I think it's this one. Yeah. All right. Let me make sure my mic didn't turn off because for some reason it likes to. Okay. All right. So this guy's name is Zachary Faust. I've never seen him. I literally just clicked following when I started watching this. So definitely excited to check out other things he has to say. But let's take a look at this one here because I think this is super important. And I really hope that this is a message that a lot of people take in right now because we're still doing the whole left versus right thing and it's a load of shit. So
go to a dark place together for a second. We won't stay there, but I want to go somewhere dark just for a moment. I had like an hour and a half long conversation with someone that was forged around content. And I got to be honest, the question came from him. It was basically, for lack of a better, punctuation on it, just, why are you doing this? Right? Your content's not necessarily driving collaboration requests. My content's not necessarily set up for TikTok shop collaborations, okay? I'm not necessarily selling more homes or gaining more clients in Delaware that want to buy or sell or invest. So why am I doing this? You want to run?
actually, this is a really good point too, because I have up until now, I've gone back and forth as to whether I wanted to create an actual channel covering this kind of content because it is intimidating. It is intimidating, like he said. One, it's not. I mean, it can be time consuming. You're also very unlikely to get nearly as many offers for things like sponsors and things of that nature. Monetization can be difficult. So getting money from this is not like if you're going to decide to do it, it's really not like what your end goal. Like hopefully some money comes in. That would be cool. But it really comes down to like having just a desire to spread common sense knowledge that hopefully other people will cling on to and help get us through where we're at right now. And I can see that's what he's kind of saying here. And I agree completely because it's not something to decide to do lightly. You can impact relationships. I don't even have a very serious job, but I've thought, gosh, they could see what if they had something to say about it? Like, I don't know, but what that means I have to like be quiet and not have an opinion. I'm not going to fucking do that. So
Run for politics? Not necessarily. Do you want to be a part of some giant regime change? Maybe. I don't know. In February 2022, I had a moment in my life I won't get too deep into right now that just led me down a path of waking up.
I also find that really interesting. And I just say that because April of 2022 was the moment I had a situation that really caused me to wake up and really drove me in a vastly different direction than I was going in. And I just think that's interesting. I find that interesting that it happened to be the same year. I think a lot of people maybe it had to do with like just coming out of the COVID fog and everything, or maybe it's something beyond that. I don't know, but I found that interesting.
And waking up for me started something simple, like, what's the Federal Reserve? What did they do? How are they founded? That's odd. Other central banks, let me look into the past. Let me look at, how this was founded. Okay, it started with a bank panic. Why was there a bank panic? And then, you lead through the history, you get through the New Deal, you get through the Bretton Woods Agreement, you get into the Nixon shock, you get into Reaganomics, and then you walk through NAFTA and Glass-Steagall and the SEC margin rule change of 2004. And then you work all the way up to Citizens United and COVID inflation. And you think, wow, has this nation really just been on this path for a century? I make this content, guys, because I feel we are headed toward clear economic authoritarianism. Because I believe full-heartedly there is a path set up to walk down. And be clear, I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but that the path of lily pads in our history, looking at the legislative wires, ripping out New Deal legislation, law by law, union by union, regulation by regulation, allowing a billionaire to make a little more, allowing a corporation to have a little less red tape, allowing an investor to make a little bit more moolah, all to the tune of the working class wealth gap being so exacerbated at this moment that it doesn't seem recoverable. I don't think it's supposed to be. I make this content because I don't want you to feel like what's happening at this moment is coming out of left field. The system's operating as it should. The usury model is operating as it should. The fractional reserve lending system is operating as it should. The political discourse to divide us between red and blue while they chase green is operating exactly as it should. And when you hear about what's going on today with regime change and oil gaining opportunities out in Venezuela, when you hear about billionaire pedophiles being covered up for, when you walk into a tariff-infused, inflating economy that's been inflating through Biden, through the first Trump term, through Obama's term, money was printed during Bush and Clinton, all these different politicians, blue or red, doesn't matter. And now we're talking digital ID. Now we're talking about getting currency out of paper and into the cloud. Now we're talking about paying down our own debt by utilizing stablecoin efforts. I'm here to tell you guys right now, I'm looking at a world with AI infusement, data centers backing it to a point where they can continue to live out their lives of wealth gaining, of capitalistic tendencies on the backs, not only of the working class, but just of the American people. See, I think there's truly a UBI world in the future. I think there truly is a regime change effort within our own economy that we'll see in the next few years. And this doesn't have to do with Trump. This doesn't have to do with even Republicans. It has to do with leadership. It has to do with unfettered Citizens United lobbying that has led toward legislation that's gotten us to the point where it seems like an unforeseen effort. I'm not stating that correctly. They're bringing about so many radical changes that we can't even conceptualize, hear me, so that by the time they're implemented, we have no clue what's even happened.
I agree with this, and I think this is so important, and I think that they've utilized this for a long time. I think that it all goes it's all very similar to, if you've watched, Candace Owens when she talks about, the book Chaos or just the general idea. I mean, you see it all the time in different scenarios when the government or whomever is in power throws out a ton of information that's just so much to try to absorb and try to understand that it's beyond our ability to. And that just allows them this window of opportunity, right? Like they have the ability to confuse us with all this stuff while they're also running this long game that we're just very much unaware of. I think that's spot on.
That money printing ad nauseum for the last decade and a half, we're going to get to the end of it and we're not even going to realize what has happened. We're going to get to digital ID and information control and lack of free speech due to them being able to monitor everything you do and literally be able to arrest you based off tendencies of posting comments you've made online. That is a world we are walking toward. We are walking toward a world where
and we're like practically there. Like there have been people arrested in the US for saying things or at least approached to by literal law enforcement for posts I've seen videos of. Um, we're not far from this, and it's terrifying.
Where the normal everyday person is going to have to rent everything, is going to have to subscribe to everything. There are going to be subscription cars, okay? There are going to be subscriptions for everything. Everything. There's not going to be any asset that can be obtained by the working class because they know if you did, you get your ass in a different class, and they don't want that. Because whenever you move up a class, somebody else has to move down a class, and that's not the way it has to be. About 2,000 years ago, about 1,996 years ago, a man stood in front of two different sects of people at two different times. One was a market of money changers who were utilizing the floor at which they were selling and taking advantage of those that were trying to conduct sacrifices and just ripping them a new one financially over it. He brought out a whip and flipped tables. On another instance, in a market full of individuals called out vehemently the den of vipers that are leading them, the cold-hearted religious influence that was leading their people toward a wealth gap problem. And a man who's now in a book that has been utilized to propagandize and nationalize a bunch of old white men, and using that very book to posture themselves as blessed, to posture themselves as in the right, all while ignoring the very thing Jesus, Yeshua, Christ hated: wealth hoarding and false leadership. This is spiritual warfare, and if you think that Jesus wouldn't be the first person to step up against it, I don't think you've read the Bible. I'm not saying you had to.
I also find this interesting considering this is the week that I realized that Donald Trump converted to Judaism in 2017, and then in 2024 went on to sell his Bibles. And, essentially, I'd have to go back and look at those videos because I haven't seen them in a while, but to see what he's actually saying, if he's claiming he's Christian and not mentioning anything else, I think that's extremely telling.
You can read the Quran. You can study Buddhism, Hinduism. In fact, I think the monks really got it right. If we all were able to find our inner peace, the world's different, but that's not what the top wants. The top wants more. They want more of this earth. They want more of its treasures, and they want more and more and more and more, and they're doing it. They're laying out the steps toward full economic and financial totalitarian control, and that's not a conspiracy. What's going to happen when AI rips apart the entire working class, especially the white-collar working class, entry level? Oh, well, it's going to create jobs. There's a new data center going in Delaware City that's 11 buildings, and it's going to cost billions and billions of dollars. You know how many jobs it's creating? 80. Not 80,000, 80. Not 80, 100, 80. 56 of them will be custodial and security. When you look at the economic situation right now, you may be able to think, unfortunately, you can't buy a house right now. You don't know if your car breaks down, what you would do. If you had to get new brakes, how are you going to afford them? Credit card debt is at all-time highs. Healthcare costs are at all-time highs. Childcare costs are at all-time highs. When you look at what private equity, hedge funds, Wall Street, billionaire leaders who are lobbying the politicians at an unfettered amount since Citizens United, because now they can, an infinite amount of money can come into our system from them at a... I make this content because I don't think it's blue and red. I think it's two sides of the same coin. I think our country is controlled, and I think it's controlled by people who want one thing: power.
Mm-hmm.
Money is power. Status is power. Leadership is power.
And they know that if they keep the left and the right and they keep that whole idea as is, that they continue to have power because when we don't come together for the right reasons, it allows them to control us.
Land is power. And they want that power so that they can have control over you. I don't think that's a conspiracy. I think it's real. And I'm going to keep talking about it from all angles, whether it's housing affordability, Epstein, or anything in between. And I think it matters that we have these conversations because otherwise it will come out of left field. And heck, maybe, just maybe, if enough people were to take on the mantle of what a Jesus probably would have done, well, maybe we run the money drivers out. Maybe the whips and the flipping of tables becomes less of a story and more of a prophecy of what's to come. Because Jesus loved everybody, and he only hated one thing: people who demonize, ostracize, and minimize its people in the name of power and money. It's sick, and it's what's happening right now. And I'm going to keep talking about it.
And this is a great example as well. When I have, here, I'm going to just get rid of this. I've said in the past how I think that as difficult as much as we often talk about social media being like the downfall of humanity, I also think that social media or whatever you want to call all of these things, I consider YouTube kind of like a social media. When you consider social media, um, we need to be utilizing this for ourselves. We need to be utilizing it so that we can converse with people around the world. And we need to be able to continue to do this so that we can keep ensuring that we build our collective bigger and louder. Um, and I think that if we are to utilize it in that way, that we have a fighting chance. And we're quickly losing it, and we can see it. I mean, I just made a TikTok video. Granted, I said some crass things, and it was demonetized, but TikTok's really terrible for that. Um, but, um, I don't think that if we're talking about, like, weak spots within this whole system, I think that social media is something that they weren't planning for. I don't think that, our government was planning on we, the people, getting this capability so quickly. I think that they knew it was possible, but I don't think they expected it to happen so quickly, and because of it, I think that it is causing a lot of that's why things are so messy right now. There's a lot of stuff that I feel like is so messy. They keep making these mistakes. I actually just I haven't even seen where it supposedly came out, but I saw Tim Pool talking about how supposedly it came out that the plan was for Charlie Kirk to be on the ticket for 2028 as VP. And not that that's surprising to me, that doesn't surprise me. Um, but the difference is that we can take that information now and talk with people, not just our neighbor, not just someone in the family at an event. We can talk with people every day about the things that we learn and what those change, in regards to like what we think is happening in the world. And for me, when I heard that, I said, well, are we really going to sit here and try and pretend that if if anybody has been following anything, people who've become presidents, vice presidents, those people are picked out well before, way, way before we expect, or think. And this just goes to show, I mean, they were talking about Charlie Kirk being on the 2028 ticket as VP, and then the following cycle or whatever that he would be running as president. And that's probably something they planned. And then what did he start doing? He started talking about our greatest ally in a not such a positive light about a month before his assassination. And yet here we are all arguing about whether or not this one little kid did this, and how ridiculous it is to consider that uh, the possibility of a foreign government's interference and the cause of his death. And are we really thinking that there wasn't enough knowledge that this was the plan, even within other governments, that once he started saying things they didn't like, that they weren't, "We better nip it in the bud now," right? Like, gotta take care of that before it gets out of hand. Um, if we use our brain cells, we should realize that's not that inconceivable in any means, and then add in all the little tidbits, finding out that supposedly our FBI has already been bought and paid for, which is why they shut down the investigation into whether or not there was a foreign government involved in the assassination within 48 hours. You're telling me that we didn't catch the guy for 33 hours, but within 48 hours, you were able to rule out any involvement with a foreign government. We have people who are high up in the CIA who are saying there's no way that's at all possible, and that our FBI has been paid off. Uh, I just think social media and being able to get our voices heard is one of the only ways that we can try and combat this. And we're quickly losing grasp of that. So I don't have a solution. I just hope that maybe speaking out like this man is, and like I'm trying to do, and hopefully others that decide to do so as well. Um hopefully we can combat it in a way that's meaningful. But I hope that you all have a great night. I am going to sign off here because I feel like I'm kind of at a point where I don't know what else I'm going to bring up at this point. I'll be back on soon enough, but I'd love it if you'd subscribe, like the video, and hopefully we can all work together and keep communicating, because they want us not to. They actively want us not to, and we have to push back, and we have to be willing to talk with the people that maybe we think we don't agree with, because I think that you'd be surprised at how much you do. Actually, on a side note, I find it really interesting, and I don't know how many other people have this happen, right? Like, I was just watching this guy's video. I've never watched anything on, I don't even, I've never even seen him until just now. He came across my feed. But how many times, I'd be curious to know, if you want to comment, let me know, because I've noticed for a while now, and I find it very interesting how often I might stumble across someone I've never seen like him. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. And I'm listening and I'm hearing what he's saying. And this is another proof that social media isn't all bad, because it does sometimes force you to open your mind a little bit. But there've been a lot of times where I'm listening to someone going on a rant and I'm like, "Hell yeah, like, I completely agree, blah, 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 blah." And then I find out that they, um, are maybe of, like, the very opposite of what I kind of felt like the side I fell into, if you even will. I never really consider myself one or the other, but if I were to lean towards one side or the other, they might be on the total opposite. And I've thought numerous times, like, it's crazy how many times people who I believe would have opposing opinions are saying something about something that's different than what I was thinking, and it's exactly the same line of thought. It's just a different topic, or it's just, whatever, fill in the blank. But until you recognize that they're maybe of, the other side, you think they're saying what I would say, that this is exactly what I feel. I agree with them completely. And then you find out and you're like, "Oh shit." But it's a great wake-up call that it's not about sides. It's not, because when you really stop and listen in an unbiased way, sometimes we're forced to, because, sometimes we're forced to listen to someone we've never seen because they come across our feed, and it's just, it's just in your face. And hopefully it allows you to have that moment of like, "Oh shit, like, I've been ignoring certain people because I felt like they wouldn't have the same wants as me." But the reality is, we as, you know, these lowly citizens that we are, we all want the same things. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna sign off now, but I hope everyone has a great night, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.